So I don't have any statement. If you'd just like to ask questions, let's keep it very informal.
Look, Pat, what was your opinion of the season? Was
It's a
it
great
a successful
year.
season?
Chris, it was a great year. Try to keep things in perspective. Obviously, disappointing ending, and, after 4 or 5 days of thinking about it and evaluating and talking to players, through exit meetings, meeting with coach and everybody, and Mickey, that I think you got to keep it in that kind of perspective. I know what everybody expected here, but it didn't happen, and but we had a great season, almost unprecedented, actually.
And what did you think about in the finals? Why did you guys lose? I mean, we know that Dallas ended every game in a run, and LeBron's shortcomings in the fourth quarter. But why did you lose the title to Dallas?
They beat us. They took it. That's what title teams do. Every championship team that I've been involved with. It's fashionable to say that somebody gave something away or somebody lost something, or we coulda, woulda, shoulda. But somebody takes it. That's all there is to it. Dallas played extremely well. It was two great teams, I thought, that finished the season. Both teams dominated, I thought, in the early rounds of the playoffs. And in 6 games, it was a great series. Why we didn't finish games as well as we should have, and all the credit goes to Dallas. They defended, they made shots, and it's always been my experience is that it comes down to a make or miss, stop or don't stop, rebound or don't rebound, 50-50 balls, all those things. But most importantly, bizarre plays. There's always a bizarre play, that 1 or 2 that you remember, my God, those things happen in a game. And so Dallas was great, and they were great at the end, and they deserved the championship.
Pat, speaking of fashionable and bizarre for that matter, LeBron has been the subject of everybody's, criticisms from this finals on. What were your thoughts on him, and why, numbers-wise, he just had a subpar performance in the finals?
He's the most unique player in the NBA, and we're blessed to have him. Most unique player. He's so much different than Dr. J, and so much different than Michael, and different than Magic, Larry Bird. He's just different. And I think we have to understand that he is different, but he's also an extraordinarily gifted basketball player that, that like anybody who comes up short, at his level of expectation, his own individual expectation, gets back into the gym and finds a way to get better. And, so, that's how I look at LeBron. We are so fortunate to have him. As a matter of fact, we were talking this week, and you guys can decide on it, any way you want. But the greatest thing in the history of, South Florida sports was those guys coming together, with the exception of the Dolphins, maybe. I'll give you that one. Because that was unique. When you go undefeated with a Super Bowl, that doesn't happen much. But I would say that Dwayne and Chris and LeBron coming together made all of our jobs a lot more exciting, a lot more exhilarating. It made your jobs, I think, incredibly exciting for you. There were some cum laude articles, there were some magna cum laude articles, and there were summa cum laude articles. There were some blowhard articles, but there were a lot of articles. And some of them were pretty damn good, as a matter of fact. They were, actually. I don't think I've ever read, on how a media covered a team. I don't think I've ever read as much good stuff about and thoughtful stuff about a team that was put together, and it was really intriguing for me as well as it was for you. So I can't wait till next season.
Yeah, the guys that you've coached, the great players, had their sort of go-tos, their signature moves or plays or portions of the course that they went to. Is there anything you would suggest to to LeBron to kind of get sort of the unstoppable go-to?
He's got a go-to game. He doesn't have to have a go-to move, you know. I mean, I love reading all of the people who've never coached in their life that all of a sudden, you know, became experts about he needs a go-to. He's got a go-to game, and he's had a go-to game, you know, ever since he's been 16 years old. You know, unless you can walk in, you know, his shoes. You know, he started out as a prodigy, and then he was the chosen one. I think somebody put that on his back in Sports Illustrated when he was 18. And he was an icon and a brand before he became a champion. And I think, you know, that is where players, you know, begin to separate themselves from what they are and what they are not. And I remember Irvin Johnson. You know, the first time I called him Magic, he said, "My name's Irvin. I'm Irvin Johnson Jr." So I started to call him Buck, because he would go by the nickname Buck, because all of his teammates said he made big bucks. You know, so he would go by Buck, but he didn't really like for me to call him Magic. And he's Irvin Johnson Jr., and the sports writer laid that on him in Lansing, Michigan. And then, of course, he was called Tragic Magic for about 3 or 4 years. You know, I also played on a team with Wilt Chamberlain and Elgin Baylor and Jerry West. But they also had Gail Goodrich, Happy Harrison, Jim McMillan, and, you know, Keith. They had a hell of a team. And I'll never forget that year when Bill Sharman came in and coached them, the pressure. I said, my God, I've never been in this before in my life. The pressure for that trio of players to come together and win a title. And they had the greatest season ever, you know, up to that point. So I think all players, you know, go through change. And he will be in the gym this year, and he will go to his game and get better. Now, is there going to be a go-to move? I'll let him decide, you know, what that's going to be, because he knows what he needs to do to get better as a player. He's 26 years old, and I think there's another, you know, huge upside for him.
How did your relationship with him evolve and develop as the season went on? How much communication did you have with LeBron as the year went on? How much did you just stay in the background and just let her communicate?
I'm an old school guy, so I don't text that much, but a lot of, you know, there were a lot of, you know, text messages, because it's just sort of the culture today. I'm an eyeball-to-eyeball guy. You know, that's I grew up that way, you know, with all of my coaches. It was always, you know, meeting with them, you know, eyeball to eyeball, you know, very few telephone calls. And so now I am of that generation, you know. He kids us about that all the time, that he's a new school guy, you know, and so, Coach, you got to get with the new school players. And so I think poignant messages, you know, via electronic communication can help. But we would meet at times and talk about things. But most of that is really left to Eric. You know, Eric and I talk a lot about the team and about players, and so we've had some very good conversations, and we will have more. The exit meeting was great. We'll have more conversations this summer about his game.
Pat, could you put your finger on, I mean, as great as LeBron was for the first 3 rounds of the playoffs, and frankly, for the first 2 games of the finals, to have that sort of drop-off in game 4, 5, 6, was there anything more than just Dallas' defense? Was it something he saw? What was your take on what you saw in terms of the drop-off?
When you really watch him play, he monitors the game right from the first minute. And I think with you know, with Dwayne and with Chris, he was the one that was always sort of monitoring, you know, how much was he going to score, how much was he going to pass, or whatever. And I think that's the one thing that he's going to find a breakthrough with maybe next year. You know, what happened against Philly, Boston, and Chicago in the finals, you know, when he wasn't overly aggressive. He took a limited number of shots. He just went in, and he made other plays. You know, I can remember the play he made, you know, against Derrick Rose when he blocked his shot to win the game, or he deflected the pass back on a pick and roll that led to the shot that he made, you know, to either tie it or put us ahead. So, you know, he did a lot of things at the end of games that will go unnoticed. He just didn't put the ball in the basket because he didn't make a lot of attempts. And you know, why that happens, I think you have to take a hard look at it, you know, on film, and then have a discussion, you know, with him about it. And then, you know, specifically from a coaching standpoint, he says, you know, this is what we want you to do. But you don't have an easy answer for that right now. You know, that's become sort of the flashpoint of this whole thing, and I think it's wrong. It's absolutely wrong, you know, to lay it out, you know, like that, you know, and it just started to continually, you know, compound itself. He wanted to win. You know, it's one of the things that we talked about in our exit meeting. I mean, Dallas did not want to win any more than we did. It was not a matter of want, or we wanted to win less, or we didn't have the resolve to win. They played better than we did at the end of the game. And so, you know, but that will be examined, and I'm sure that LeBron will examine that, try to figure out maybe the next time it'll be different.
Eric had become fond of saying, we have enough. Did you think you guys had
Yes.
enough, and where do you go next year as far as rebuilding? Or-
You know, everybody else is frantic. Dallas isn't frantic, and we're not. There's 28 other teams out there that are frantic, not really frantic. I say that from trying to describe how everybody else is trying to get better, you know, quicker. And, you know, the phones are, you know, lighting up across this league, you know, for teams to try to find, you know, players and make changes and try to get to our level and to Dallas's level and to those teams and to Chicago's level, you know, quicker. So we are good enough, we have enough, but we're going to continue to try to make this team better and move forward with that. That's what our job is this summer.
And what areas specifically that do you need to, or what will you be looking for in free agency and the draft and
The
position?
the best absolute player available at the position of greatest need. You know, everybody says that we need a 5 and we need a 1. You know, everybody says that, you know, but and there's some truth to that. Mario Chalmers is a starting point guard for us, and, you know, it's like, I don't know when the kid is ever going to get a break. You know, he's who he is. He's going to get better. I think when we stop not judging him as whether he's a starting point guard or not a starting point guard, but what his role is and how that point guard has to play with our team. But we would like to get size. We'd like to get length. You know, Joel Anthony has done an incredible job, and he will get better. But we'd like to get size that we can put in there in the middle. That I don't know if you want to get a back to the basket player, but we'd like to get size and things of that nature inside that might be a little bit more athletic with great length. We have them. We just did not use them, you know, this year. So. But we have enough, Chris, but we're going to get more than enough.
Yeah, what's your thoughts on coaching again?
No, I'm not going to, Dave.
13 minutes and 21 seconds.
I had the idea there was going to be some.
It only took 13 minutes and 21 seconds, Dave, so, you know, last year was like 37 seconds into it, you know, so, you know, no. And, you know, it doesn't mean that I don't have the fire, you know, but we got a great young coach here, and I want to support him and you know, hope that he can, you know, can grow like I did. You know, this is just his 3rd year, you know, and I can remember my 3rd year of coaching. Got swept out of the playoffs, that was my 2nd year. My 3rd year, choked. I did. That was against Boston in '84. So I had a rocky start myself, by the way, even though I won the title, or we won the title.